In the dry heart of the African continent, where the Sahel's burning winds carry both dust and defiance, one man has emerged from the shadows of obscurity to become the symbol of a new kind of revolution. His name is Ibrahim Traoré, a name that now echoes through the streets of Ouagadougou, across the deserts of Mali, through the savannas of Niger, and deep into the conscience of a continent long hungry for dignity. This is not just the story of a soldier who took power. It is the story of a young captain who dared to stand against the world, to challenge empires both visible and invisible, and to redefine what it means to lead in Africa. Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, has always stood at the crossroads of hope and hardship. Once called Upper Volta under French rule, it became a nation carved from struggle, a country scarred by drought, coups, and centuries of exploitation. Independence in 1960 did not bring true freedom. It merely changed the color of the chains. For decades, French companies extracted gold and resources from its soil, while its people remained among the poorest in the world. Terrorism spread across the Sahel, displacing millions, while promises of foreign help turned into new forms of dependency. It was within this chaos that a young officer named Ibrahim Traoré began to question everything he was taught about loyalty, leadership, and liberation. Born in 1988 in the small town of Bondokui, Traoré grew up far from the polished halls of power. His childhood was simple, marked by the rhythm of village life, discipline, and the quiet pride of a family that valued education and honesty. As a boy, he dreamed of serving his country, not in words, but in action. He joined the army as a teenager, rising through the ranks with uncommon speed. Those who served under him describe a man who rarely spoke but always observed, who carried himself with humility yet possessed an aura that demanded respect. He watched his country unravel under corruption and foreign interference, saw villages fall to militants while politicians sat in comfort, and witnessed how foreign soldiers claimed to protect but never truly freed the land. The disillusionment grew. He began to see that Burkina Faso's greatest enemy was not just the terrorist with a gun, but the invisible hand that controlled its politics, its economy, and its destiny. By 2022, the nation had already suffered one coup. Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Demba had seized power from the previous president, promising stability and reform. But months later, things had only worsened. Attacks continued. People starved. Soldiers died without ammunition. Morale collapsed. For many in the army, Damiba had betrayed the revolution before it even began. In the barracks and camps, whispers spread, whispers of another young officer who refused to accept defeat, a captain who believed that real change could not come through submission but through sacrifice. That officer was Ibrahim Traoré. On September 30th, 2022, he made his move. Armored vehicles rolled through the streets of Ouagadougou, gunfire cracked the air, and by nightfall, Damiba was gone. When the smoke cleared, Traoré appeared on national television, calm, composed, and commanding. He wore his uniform without medals, his beret slightly tilted, his eyes steady. "We must take our destiny back," he said. "Burkina Faso belongs to its people." Those words marked the beginning of a new chapter in African history. At just 34 years old, Traoré became the youngest head of state in the world. To his people, he was not a coup leader, but a redeemer. Crowds filled the streets waving flags, chanting his name, calling him the new Sankara, a reference to the legendary Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's revolutionary hero of the 1980s. Like Sankara, Traoré believed in self-reliance, in breaking the chains of neocolonialism, and in restoring pride to a people long humiliated by dependence. He spoke with conviction that resonated deeply across Africa, a continent still struggling to rise from the shadows of foreign control. His message was simple, yet revolutionary. Africa must no longer be a playground for global powers. It must be a master of its own destiny. And so began what many call the Sahel Awakening. Traoré expelled French troops from the country, closed French military bases, and declared that Burkina Faso would no longer be dictated to by Paris or Brussels. He turned instead to regional solidarity, forming a military and political alliance with Mali and Niger, two other nations that had also thrown off Western-backed regimes. Together, they created the Alliance of Sahel States, a pact rooted in mutual defense, shared resources, and collective independence. Western commentators labeled it a dangerous shift toward authoritarianism, but across Africa, millions saw it as the long-awaited dawn of unity. Flags bearing Traoré's face appeared in rallies from Senegal to Sudan. Young Africans began to speak of him as a symbol of courage, a man unafraid to say what others only whispered, that true liberation requires cutting the strings that still bind the continent. Inside Burkina Faso, Traoré began implementing reforms with ruthless determination. He nationalized certain mines, cracked down on corruption, and restructured the government. Reports claimed he slashed top officials' salaries by 30% and increased civil servants' pay by half. Some said he refused to accept a presidential salary at all. While not all of these claims were independently verified, they fueled the myth of a leader who lived for the people, not above them. His government began investing in agriculture, food production, and local industries. 2 tomato processing plants opened to reduce imports. A domestic car project, the Itower, was launched, designed and built entirely by Burkinabe engineers. He pushed to make Burkina Faso self-sufficient in both food and energy. In a country once dependent on foreign donations, he preached the power of production. He who feeds you controls you. Feed yourself, and you free yourself. But freedom always has enemies. Traoré's defiance invited retaliation. Economic sanctions tightened. Media outlets branded him a dictator. Western diplomats accused him of human rights abuses, and international organizations warned of press suppression. Human Rights Watch reported arrests of journalists and critics. Traoré, however, dismissed these claims as attempts to weaken his government. In speeches, he often said, "They call every African who defends his land a dictator, but they never call those who steal our resources oppressors." His words struck a chord with millions who saw their own struggles reflected in his voice. Across social media, he became a phenomenon, a meme, a hero, and a target, all at once. Yet beyond the symbolism, the reality on the ground remained harsh. Burkina Faso's war against terrorism continued. Nearly 2 million citizens had been displaced by violence. Rural regions suffered constant attacks. The Sahel was still burning. Some parts of the country were under militant control, and reports surfaced of civilian casualties caused by both insurgents and government forces. Traoré's administration faced the impossible challenge of fighting a war on multiple fronts, against extremists, against poverty, and against foreign pressure. His alliance with Russia drew both support and criticism. For him, it was not about ideology, but survival. "We will work with anyone who respects our sovereignty," he declared. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso sought military aid and training from Russia and cooperation within the BRICS bloc, signaling a shift from Western dependency to multipolar diplomacy. To many observers, Traoré's rise echoed that of Thomas Sankara 40 years earlier, the revolutionary who renamed Upper Volta as Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, and tried to rebuild the nation on integrity and independence. Sankara rode a bicycle to work, refused foreign loans, and promoted women's rights. But he was assassinated in 1987, betrayed by those closest to him. When Traoré invokes Sankara's name, it is not nostalgia, it is a warning. He knows how dangerous it is to challenge global powers while still within their reach. "If I must die for my people to be free, let it be so," he once said, "but I will never kneel." That line alone transformed him into a martyr in waiting. The legend of Ibrahim Traoré grew not because of state propaganda, but because of genuine emotion. For the first time in decades, many Africans felt proud to see a leader who refused to bow. In the marketplaces, his face appeared on T-shirts beside the Pan-African flag. In villages, elders spoke his name as they once spoke of Nkrumah, Lumumba, and Sankara. Across social media, youth posted videos calling him the Lion of Africa. His courage gave voice to a generation tired of seeing their countries used as pawns in global games. Whether you agreed with him or not, you could not ignore him. He became a mirror reflecting Africa's deep yearning for sovereignty. But behind the charisma lies a storm. The same people who praise him also fear the cost of his rebellion. Burkina Faso's economy remains fragile. Inflation and conflict strain the system. Some accuse him of concentrating too much power in military hands. Elections were postponed, fueling debate about democracy's place in a time of crisis. Critics say his revolution risks turning into another cycle of control. Supporters argue that democracy means nothing without security, and that only stability can pave the way for lasting freedom. Between these two forces, idealism and pragmatism, Traoré walks a narrow path, balancing hope and hardship every day. He is not a saint. He is not a villain. He is a man shaped by the contradictions of his time, a soldier turned statesman, a believer in sovereignty navigating a world built on submission. His leadership style is raw and unfiltered, his rhetoric fiery, yet rooted in logic. In his speeches, he often speaks not as a politician, but as a teacher. If we are to rise, we must rise together. No foreign hand will lift us. We are the hands of Africa. It is this belief that defines him, not power, not position, but purpose. Today, Burkina Faso remains a land of struggle and strength. Its roads may still carry the weight of poverty, but its people walk taller. Its skies may still echo with gunfire, but they also echo with pride. Traoré's vision has not yet delivered peace, but it has rekindled faith. Faith that Africa's destiny is not written in Paris or Washington, but in the hearts of its own people. Across the continent, his rise has forced a question that cannot be ignored. What does true independence look like in the 21st century? Is it a flag, a speech, or the power to decide your own fate without fear or favor? Ibrahim Traoré's journey is far from over. Whether he becomes a legend like Sankara or a cautionary tale like so many before him, only time will tell. But one truth remains undeniable. He has changed the rhythm of African politics. No longer does the continent whisper about freedom, it demands it. No longer does it wait for saviors, it seeks them within. As the sun sets over the Sahel and the red dust drifts across the horizon, the story of Ibrahim Traoré continues to unfold, a story of courage, defiance, and destiny. It is the story of a young man who rose from obscurity to challenge empires, who chose conviction over comfort, and who made an entire continent believe again. In his voice, millions hear the echoes of their ancestors, the same voices that once said, "We will not bow." In his struggle, they see their own, and in his dream, they glimpse the Africa that could be, free, fearless, and forever rising. Because in the end, Ibrahim Traoré is not just a president, he is a mirror, a reflection of Africa's pain, its pride, and its promise. The world may call him controversial, but history may one day call him something else, necessary. And so as the drums of destiny beat once more across the red soil of Burkina Faso, one truth becomes clear. This is no longer a forgotten nation. It is a land reborn through struggle, led by a man who dared to defy history itself. The world watches, uncertain of what comes next, but one thing is certain. Ibrahim Traoré has already written his name into the chronicles of African courage. Life in Burkina Faso under Traoré's leadership is a delicate dance between hope and hardship, innovation and survival, where every corner of the country tells a story of resilience. In Ouagadougou, the capital, markets overflow with the colors of local produce. Yams, millet, tomatoes, cotton, and gold dust that glimmers like liquid sunlight in the hands of small traders. Women balance baskets on their heads while motorbikes weave through the traffic, carrying students, merchants, and soldiers alike, a seamless rhythm that belies the chaos that once dominated these streets. The city hums not with the noise of despair, but with the energy of progress, of ordinary people taking extraordinary steps to rebuild their lives and their country. There are schools where children, once denied education, now have access to computers, libraries, and Wi-Fi, connecting them to a world that once seemed impossibly distant. Universities host programs in agriculture, renewable energy, and technology, designed not to export talent, but to cultivate it at home. Students no longer see migration as the only option. They dream of contributing to their country, building businesses, and innovating in sectors long neglected. The promise of self-reliance is no longer abstract. It is tangible. Even amidst the scorching sun, the people rise, for they understand that survival is not a matter of waiting, but of action. In rural regions, the story is just as transformative. Villages once cut off by poor roads and insecurity now witness a steady stream of investment. Farmers access irrigation systems, solar-powered pumps, and seeds for drought-resistant crops, ensuring food security in a land long plagued by famine. Small businesses sprout in places where none existed, from tailoring shops to mechanics, electric car assembly points, and solar panel factories. Traoré's insistence on local production has ignited a sense of ownership among citizens. The country is no longer merely a site for foreign extraction, but a place where ingenuity meets necessity. Local entrepreneurs are thriving, and the narrative of despair that dominated headlines is slowly being replaced by one of determination and creativity. Even critics admit that the young president's vision has infused a new energy into the economy, a subtle but undeniable shift that is rewriting expectations for what is possible in West Africa. Traoré's policies are deeply symbolic as well as practical. By reasserting control over gold and cotton, he has challenged long-standing patterns of extraction that have enriched others while leaving Burkina Faso impoverished. Mines are now operated by Burkinabe workers using technology acquired through international partnerships built on knowledge transfer rather than dependency. Cotton, once exported raw and sold for minimal profit, is now processed locally, creating jobs and retaining wealth within the country. These measures do not just bolster the economy, they reaffirm a collective sense of dignity, sending a message to the people that their labor, their land, and their resources belong to them. By putting the economy in the hands of citizens, Traoré is doing more than governing. He is reshaping the psychological fabric of the nation, challenging centuries of learned subservience and instilling a pride that is as palpable as the golden sun over the Sahel. Yet it is not just economics that defines this era. There is a cultural revolution underway, subtle but profound. Traoré has revitalized public monuments, commemorated heroes, and promoted civic pride in ways that go beyond political theater. From the memorials of Thomas Sankara to new public infrastructure, every initiative carries a story, a lesson, a symbol meant to remind the people that their history is valuable and their future is theirs to claim. Even mundane aspects of urban life, like traffic enforcement through CCTV or community-led sanitation projects, are imbued with a sense of responsibility, teaching citizens that governance is a partnership, not a hierarchy. Respect is cultivated through both accountability and opportunity, a balance that few modern leaders attempt to strike. Citizens, young and old, feel invested in the nation's success in ways that transcend elections and policy papers. Traoré's impact is perhaps most visible in the younger generation, whose enthusiasm for change is electrifying. Students at universities and vocational programs speak openly about their dreams for a Burkina Faso free from terrorism, poverty, and foreign manipulation. They envision careers in law, medicine, agriculture, technology, and entrepreneurship, all grounded in the hope of building their homeland rather than fleeing it. For them, Traoré represents a living example of what is possible. A young leader who took risks, who refused to be silenced, and who insisted that the nation itself must be the architect of its destiny. Their optimism is not naive. It is a calculated belief in the possibilities that arise when courage meets opportunity. They see the roads being built, the schools reopening, the energy flowing from solar farms, and the factories humming, tangible evidence that a new era is dawning. Even amidst the progress, the reality of hardship is never far from the surface. Soldiers continue to fight insurgents, villages remain under threat, and families still mourn those lost to terrorism. The challenges of living in the Sahel are brutal. The sun is relentless, the land often unforgiving, and resources limited. Entrepreneurs grapple with high interest rates, bureaucratic delays, and the lingering skepticism of investors wary of a volatile region. Electricity and water are not always guaranteed, and the specter of war remains a constant backdrop. Yet, despite these obstacles, the resilience of the people is astonishing. They adapt, innovate, and endure, fueled by the conviction that their struggles are part of a larger narrative, the creation of a Burkina Faso that belongs to its citizens. In the streets of Ouagadougou, ordinary acts of dedication speak volumes. Citizens form human shields to protect the presidential villa at night, demonstrating loyalty and trust that seem almost unfathomable in other parts of the world. Markets bustle not merely with trade, but with conversation, debate, and exchange of ideas. Young women ride motorcycles and bicycles with confidence, embodying a spirit of independence that mirrors the ambitions of the nation itself. Entrepreneurs assemble electric vehicles, solar panels, and small-scale factories, turning scarcity into opportunity. Roads once impassable are now open, connecting isolated communities to markets, schools, and hospitals, creating a tangible sense of progress. In these details, the hum of a generator, the laughter of students, the construction of a new mall or apartment, the narrative of Burkina Faso's transformation comes alive. Traoré's leadership style is unconventional, yet profoundly effective. He does not issue orders from a distance. He shows the work being done, engages directly with citizens, and responds to criticism with action rather than rhetoric. If a sector fails, he investigates, demonstrates the difficulties, and mobilizes resources to fix it. The transparency and accountability he demands, coupled with his refusal to accept personal luxury at the nation's expense, have fostered a rare type of legitimacy. Citizens no longer merely observe government, they participate in it, aware that their voice, effort, and presence have tangible impact. In a country historically plagued by disillusionment, this